Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is 9 o'clock on Friday, and it is the first Friday of May. And you know what is happening on the first Fridays, right? That's Financial Fitness Friday with Washington Trust, where we're talking about things that you or someone you know needs to know about in the area of finance. So hit the like button, the share button, the bells, the whistles, all those social media cues to say, hey, good stuff here. Check it out. Now, as you know, we're here every Friday. I'm Deb Burton, the Executive Director of RI Elder Info and your host of Friday Friends. And we are a nonprofit that could not bring this information to you without the support of our sponsors. So huge thank you to Washington Trust, as well as McCarthy Law, 321 Media, Point 32 Health Foundation, United Healthcare, Oak Street Health, England Studios, and all of our individual donors. I want to just say a huge thank you. It would not be possible to bring you this show without their support. So this week, we're speaking with Jared Wilbur from Washington Trust about different ways to be safe. Hi, Jared. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing? Good morning.
Very good. Very good. So you have a long title there at Washington Trust. Please share with folks what it is that you're responsible for at Washington Trust Bank.
So I'm responsible for all of the fraud investigations, check fraud review, and physical security of Washington Trust.
Wow. That sounds like a lot of responsibility.
Keeps me busy. Yeah.
I would imagine you're more busy than ever because I keep seeing in the news different ways that scammers, hackers, ne'er-do-wells are preying on our older adults. And I'm wondering if you could share what Washington Trust does to protect our older adults and how people can really be mindful to stay safe out there.
Great. Yeah. So we do a lot. We have a lot of back office processes that look at account activity for anomalies, and we investigate those. But really, I think Washington Trust specifically, one of the best things we do is we have a very good relationship with our customers. We know our customers very well. We learn their normal account patterns and activities. And when we see variations from that, we'll ask questions. And those questions, at times might feel intrusive, but it's really designed to protect our customers because, like you said, the fraud has become so pervasive. I would say that the elder fraud that we see, specifically with the scams and frauds, accounts for better than half of all the cases that we see. And we are up significantly in volume over last year in terms of the number of attempts that we're seeing. Thankfully, we're stopping most of it. But the best thing is, answer those questions truthfully so that we can kind of get to the bottom of it and make sure that we're protecting our customers.
Absolutely. So some of the scams that I've heard of, and I hear things, but I'm sure in tune to the banking security as you are, but you find that someone has, say, messaged you on social media and you are like, the best thing since sliced bread. And, oh, can we just have a private chat over here? Oh, and by the way, we need some gift cards. Like, are you seeing that kind of thing? And how does the bank say, maybe not so great?
Yeah. So we see the typical, unsolicited reach out over text message or Facebook or, words with friends chat or whatever those social messaging apps are. And a lot of times it just starts with the random reach out, so I contacted the wrong person. And then they start like a friendly conversation to kind of lure you in and kind of get you on the hook. And then a lot of times it will transition off of that platform into some encrypted messaging apps. So that's a big red flag if somebody wants to all of a sudden start communicating with you via Telegram or WhatsApp instead of going through a normal chat. Because those communications are encrypted, so they're not monitored where, Facebook or Some of those other social media apps might be watching to see, are there red flags for fraud and things like that. So anytime somebody wants to divert you to an encrypted messaging app, that should be a red flag unless there's, a normal reason for that.
Exactly. It's one thing, if your grandchild in California is, trying to plan a surprise birthday and you've talked to them on the phone, like
Right.
actually confirm that you're talking to them on the phone, and they're like, oh, let's put this on WhatsApp so, we can have a whole family chat to plan,
Right.
his 100th birthday. That's one thing. But if it's like, oh, hi, you're beautiful and we love you. And
Yeah, let's start investing in cryptocurrency together, right?
yeah, can you test the ATMs and see if the Bitcoin works? That was
Yeah.
one I heard. And I was like, I don't know what Bitcoin is. No. So in that same vein, does Washington Trust ever initiate the contact with somebody via text to say, hey, we think your account has been hacked. Please confirm your account number or your PIN number, or initiate those phone calls outbound?
So we will contact customers if we see red flags on their account, but we wouldn't be calling them looking for their online banking login information or PIN numbers or things like that, or one-time passcodes. It may be that if you call into us and we want to make sure that we're talking to the right person, on that phone call, we may send you a one-time passcode and ask you to read it back to us, but you initiated the call, right? We're verifying you. We would never call you directly and ask you for a one-time passcode, because how do you know it's us, right? And that's one of the tactics that the fraudsters use. Another one that we see a lot, especially recently, is customers being solicited via text messages to either renew antivirus subscriptions or Geek Squad subscriptions, or alternatively, they're getting text messages that they have a fraudulent Amazon purchase and they're told to call a phone number. When they call that number and they indicate either they don't want the virus subscription or they didn't authorize the charge, right? The fraudster on the other end says, okay, well, we're going to refund that money directly into your account. And then they have the customer download an app or make some sort of allow a connection directly to their computer, and then log into their online banking. There is no valid reason for someone to connect to your computer and have you log into your online banking, because when that happens, they can open up a separate session in another window that you can't see. And then what we see is they're transferring money from one of your accounts to another one of your accounts and telling you, oh no, I messed up. Instead of refunding you $69.95, I accidentally refunded you $69,000. When really what they did was they advanced money from your money market account, for example.
Oh.
And they scare you and they threaten IRS penalties and tax consequences, jail time, whatever the bogey is, in order to induce you to try to get that money back to them, right? So they'll tell you to put cash in an envelope or buy gift cards or do a wire transfer or a MoneyGram. And you're thinking that this is a refund that somebody accidentally sent to you, when in reality, it's your own money moved from one account to the other. So when we have someone coming in to the bank to do a transfer like that, we will look at those, recent transactions to see, is this money that someone's looking to withdraw just recently transferred into this account? And we'll try to make sure the customer understands that and that it's not one of these, refund schemes.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Those three that you mentioned, the antivirus, the Amazon Prime, the Norton, I've had all three of those in the last 2 weeks. Yeah. I woke up one morning and I had a bunch of texts from scam artists that had come in overnight saying, oh, verify your account number, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, and
it's difficult because, banks and financial services companies, we do use that SMS channel to verify, transactions. And if there's fraud, like, it's possible that you would get a text message saying, did you authorize this purchase, right? So the best thing you can do is, if you get a message that says, hey, we have a $700 transaction pending in Las Vegas, for example, right? Mm-hmm. It gives you a phone number to call. You can reply back to the text message that, no, you don't authorize the transaction. But then if you're going to contact your bank, don't call them at the number in the text message. hang up and call your bank directly using either the number on their website or the number on the back of your debit card, because then you know you're getting to the right party.
Ah, and I noticed that sometimes the caller ID for these scammers actually mimics the bank phone number. So it really does look like it's coming from the bank.
Yeah, and caller ID can be spoofed with apps you can download on your phone very easily. So you cannot trust caller ID anymore.
That's really, really disappointing.
Yeah.
I feel like if there is a way to rob somebody, there are folks out there who are going to puzzle out how to make that happen.
Right.
So if an individual is coming into the bank and maybe it's, your regular customer who comes in every week, chats with you about, what's going on in their family's lives or in their world. And then they come in and they've got someone maybe hanging around outside or, kind of sitting in the customer waiting area. Are those kinds of things red flags that would prompt the tellers to ask questions?
Yes. Yeah. So we train our tellers to look for the appearance of any kind of new friends or caregivers, especially if the older adult appears to be exhibiting some sort of anxiety around them, or if that person appears controlling it all. Those would definitely be red flags. Maybe not so much for the scams, but certainly for the type of family or caregiver type of elder exploitation. Anytime somebody tells us that they recently got engaged to somebody they met online, maybe they've never met them, those are certainly red flags. And like I said, we'll ask questions. And one of the common tropes that we see with the scams is that the scammers are preparing the older adults with the questions that we're going to ask and how to answer them, right? So anytime somebody gives you a script or tells you to lie to your bank or misrepresent the details of a financial transaction, that's a huge red flag. And you should hang up the phone right away. Nobody legitimate, whether it's a government agency or a bank or Amazon or Microsoft, is ever going to tell you to lie to your bank about a transaction. And they're certainly not going to try to listen in on your conversation while you have your cell phone in your pocketbook, which is another common thing that we see. And the reason they do that is because it creates anxiety on the part of the target that if they say something wrong or don't go along with the script they've been given, they're going to get in trouble, right? So we'll ask customers sometimes, is somebody listening to this conversation? I see your cell phone's on, like what's going on? And, so anytime someone tells you to lie to your bank, if they're trying to listen in on your private, financial conversations with your bank, that's a big red flag for fraud. Another huge one, if you don't mind me jumping ahead a little bit.
No, please.
Is if somebody attempts to get cash out of you by sending a courier to your house.
That's super scary. There was just something in the mail about that.
Yep.
I'm sorry, on in the news about that. That is like super scary to have a stranger show up and ask for money at your door. Oh.
Yeah, and we've seen that a lot, especially in the South County area. Wow. They know that the houses down there and the people down there tend to have a little bit more income. But let's say, you've listened to this program and somebody tells you to withdraw $20,000 and you start thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I remember something about this. Maybe this is a scam, right? Well, you've now told somebody that you've got $20,000 in your hand and they're showing up at your house. If you get cold feet, not only is it it's a fraud issue, certainly, but now you're talking about a physical safety issue.
Yeah.
So in the event something like that happens, we always recommend, and we will call ourselves if we're aware of it, but getting the local police involved for two reasons. One, it makes sure that if they do show up, sometimes the couriers are completely unaware of what's going on. They've just been hired to do a job. Sometimes the people picking up the cash are involved. But if someone's showing up at your house with, the expectation to receive $20,000 and you tell them to go away, that situation could turn dangerous. So it's a physical safety as well as a fraud issue. So we would always involve local police in circumstances like that.
Absolutely. And if people find that, all right, they made a mistake, the money is left their account, what are their first steps when they say, oh my God, it was a scam, or, he or she really didn't love me like they said, they really loved my bank account? Like, what are the next steps that people should take? Is it possible to get your money back?
It's unlikely. But I'll say this, the first step should be to report to the bank, and minutes matter. So we've had cases where, had I known 10 minutes earlier, we could have recovered all the funds. And in that 10 minutes, at the other bank, the money walked out the door. So first step when you realize you've been scammed is you should contact your bank and make them aware of the situation. That gives us the ability to hold any funds if we still have them, to issue wire recalls to the other bank if funds have already gone out. The second thing I would say is file a report with an agency called the Internet Crime Complaint Center. That's ic3.gov. That organization maintains a database of internet scams, and law enforcement uses that database so that in the event somebody is arrested, they are able to identify victims to get restitution back to them. It's also the vehicle whereby the FBI and Secret Service get large wire fraud cases into their workflow to start chasing the money, across the different hops as it moves throughout the country.
And I know that through the IC3 program, there are support groups for individuals who have been scammed. So, I mean, a lot of it is confidence scams, and it's someone made you believe that they really cared about you.
Right.
And that hurts on a whole other level as well. There's embarrassment, there's shame. I know for older adults, sometimes they're hesitant to report that they got scammed because they don't want their family to think, oh my God, I have dementia, or, things like that. When in reality, these scam artists are doing this as a job, and they're really good at their job.
Well, and people don't realize this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, in 2022, which is the last year that I have numbers for, we're looking at more than 88,000 victims across the country, losses of over $3 billion, thousands of people who lost over $100,000 each in these types of scams. It's pervasive. It's a professional, well-run organization, and we've seen doctors, lawyers, high school principals, PhDs. This happens to people. In fact, we had a retired detective that got hit in a scam a couple of months back. This happens to everybody. They're very good at what they do. So I always tell people, don't be ashamed, because the fraudsters rely on your embarrassment and your silence to keep these things going. If you're hit in something like this and you feel stupid, don't. It happens to everybody. My brother actually was hit in one a while back and called me up because he wanted to know if it was possible that the letter he received from the Nigerian prince might actually have something to it, right? So they're very good at what they do. They use psychological tricks to get people on the hook and keep them there. And if you're victimized in something like this and you share that story, that might help somebody else avoid it. So it's very good for people to talk about this. The more awareness that we have, the better. And I really appreciate you having me on this morning so that we can talk about this and get this message out there.
Absolutely. And one other question I wanted to touch on, I've heard of it. I've not experienced it, thank goodness. Something about check washing, because I know for a lot of folks, writing checks and putting them in the mailbox is the way they do it versus online banking or something like that. What is this check washing business?
Yeah, so check washing typically occurs when mail is stolen out of those blue roadside collection bins. The criminals will take something like a water bottle, wrap it in duct tape, the backwards way, and then drop it down there with a shoelace. And then whatever mail sticks to the bottle, they pull it up, they open it, they look for checks. Once they have the checks in hand.
That's super creative.
Yeah, well, once they have the checks in hand, they can use simple household chemicals to wash off most inks off of a check and then rewrite the check however they want and negotiate it.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so I always advise people, don't mail your mail at those blue roadside collection bins. Always go into the post office to mail your stuff. And when you get your monthly account statements, look at the checks and see, did the check that I wrote out to National Grid actually get to National Grid, or was it negotiated by somebody else? If somebody intercepts one of your checks, you do have typically a year to file a claim on that, but you have to report it once you identify it.
Got it. So if you see it, don't pass it off as, oh, that's kind of funny. Like, let the bank know right away. Right. And does the bank work with the police departments and the feds in order to try to catch some of these scammers?
Oh, yeah. So we file reports with local and federal agencies, daily. on the different fraud scams that we see, so that they can link cases together in the background. And, if a customer is victimized in something, we're always happy to provide whatever support we can to law enforcement, whether it's, copies of items or surveillance video and all that.
Wow. Wow. It seems like it doesn't ever stop.
We're very busy. Yeah.
And I would imagine every day is a little bit different as they try to figure out new ways to scam people.
Right. Yeah. They're very creative. I wish they'd put some of that creativity to something a little more beneficial to society.
They'd probably do great things if they did. I mean, I wouldn't have ever thought of duct taping a water bottle and fishing in a mailbox for these kinds of things. But
the Postal Service is redesigning a lot of the mailboxes to help reduce that. But that's a slow process because there's, thousands of them across the country.
Wow. So what are 3 quick things that people should do to protect themselves from financial scams?
I would say first, monitor your accounts. Make sure you understand the transactions in your accounts, including accounts that you don't use regularly. So if you have a home equity line of credit, for example, and you're not using it all the time, you still need to review those monthly statements, because in the event of a fraudulent transaction, you have to report that quickly to not have liability for it. Secondly would be, don't answer your phone and talk to people and give out sensitive information if you don't know who you're speaking with. Sometimes in the scams, a grandparent scam, for example, it'll seem like you're talking to your grandson or your granddaughter. The other thing you can do is, if you're in a situation like that and you're concerned, hang up and then call your family member directly, because most of the time you'll get them on the phone and you'll realize there's nothing going on. But that stopping for a second, kind of taking a step back and asking yourself, does this make sense? And then making those direct reach outs to your bank or your family members can really stop most of the scams in their tracks.
Wow. This is just amazing information. I'm really glad. I know I said, only maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and I've definitely kept you longer, but this has been awesome. Like, to learn the levels that these folks will go to and to hear what Washington Trust is doing to protect people. I think that's amazing.
Well, we try, we work hard.
Well, thank you for taking your time out of your busy day and extra time to continue chatting with me. I really do appreciate it, Jared.
Thank you. It was nice speaking with you.
Yes.
Have a nice weekend.
So Washington Trust is actually one of the banks that is a leader in protecting older adults here in Rhode Island from financial scams. And I learned about their advocacy for older adults in watching a legislative hearing in relation to financial abuse of older adults. And that's what put it on my radar to make sure that I had Washington Trust come on and speak with everybody about it, because like Jared said, this is $1 billion industry. And there's no levels that they won't sink to be able to access your funds. So I encourage you, be careful if someone is trying to pressure you to get money quickly. If they are willing to send someone to your house, these are huge, huge red flags. And, I'm confident that you are a wonderful, loving, perfect person. But if somebody is reaching out to you out of the blue online and asking you to go to these secure messaging apps and asking you for money or for gift cards or anything like that, please, please talk to other people about it, because it is very likely a scam. So I want you all to be very careful and be mindful. If you see something, say something. That includes for your loved ones. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. In the meantime, be well and be kind.
If you liked this video, please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.